So we're on our way over to a company called Moto Tuning, run by a man called Gary Donahue. What Gary has said to me is he can make this S1000R better. And how he plans to do that is by cracking and flashing the ECU and applying a custom tune to it that better suits the bike. So I sat down with Gary a couple of weeks ago to discuss this, and like the process itself is fascinating, which we'll show you later on in the video, and the work that goes into like getting around the restrictions on a Euro 4 ECU and tuning the motorcycle and making sure that that flash sticks and doesn't get wiped out. But we talked about the various benefits that Gary thinks I'll see on the bike once it's been flashed, and I went away and I thought about it and was like, yeah, definitely, let's do it, sounds great. But then I was only using the bike really for commuting in and out of the office, but then I got out for a couple of spins lately when, you know, it wasn't warm, it was very, very cold, but it was dry and you could actually like push on a little bit, and it just reminded me like how good a bike this is straight out of the box. I mean, it's not perfect, no bike is. There are little things about it that annoy me, like from pulling low down there's that slight hesitation and stutter with the fueling, but that's asking a lot of an inline four to pull from low revs in a higher gear. Like, it's not a twin or a boxer, it's not what it's meant to do. You know, you're meant to keep an inline four spinning up and it revs up so power is available. Now on the OR, as opposed to like the double OR, they do make power earlier and they make more torque lower down the range, which is, you know, if we're all honest, that's where we're going to spend most of our lives, is lower down the range. I mean, if you spend all your life at, you know, 9 or 10,000 RPM, it's green, chief, go. Fair play to you. But for the day-to-day stuff, and even just the normal Sunday spins with the lads and ladies, it's the usual power you want. So I'm really, really interested to get the bike back from Gary once it's done. I really hope the change is obvious. I don't think I'm supposed to turn there. I think I'm meant to go straight. God damn it, every time I come this way I get lost. Oh yeah, so like Gary is obviously going to put a lot of work and time into this, and I'm just not sure how big a difference it's going to be, because like I said before, like the ORs are just a great bike straight out of the box. Get on and ride them. Like, we got this one, we put 1,000 kilometers on it, and then we took it straight to Cartagena for 2 days in southern Spain, and it absolutely monstered its way around the track. So that was from going from normal day-to-day poodling, stuck a set of Dunlop 212s on it, and then the 2 days blitzing around the track in the sunshine, and it did it beautifully. Yeah, it did go the right way. I was wrong. I was very wrong. Big difference. Big difference. Whoop. Jesus. Throttle response in this thing now is amazing. Like, Gary walked me through what he was doing with the fly-by-wire mapping and showing where it was being retarded by the system, or by the ECU by default. Like, it was pretty severe up to a point, and then it like leveled out and went linear, but now it's just, it's not pure linear, because that would turn into a switch, like on off, nothing in between. But my god, they just, okay, there's a couple of things at work here. So there's a fly-by-wire throttle, which is now much more linear, like progressively linear. Like, there's no backing off until a certain point. Combine that with the fueling, which has also changed. So what Gary at Moto Tuning has done is he has enabled the injectors to come on much earlier. So by default, they kick back in at 2,500 RPM when you're on off throttle, whereas now they come on from 5,000 RPM. So what that means, whoop, is even off throttle. Oh, it's so slippy. It's so slippy, but like, all the safety systems are still working. You saw traction control just catch that rear wheel spin. What it has done is ironed out any kind of hesitation from the bike. So that spin up there, like, I know it's still wet and kind of cold, and I am in dynamic, so this is completely my own fault. But what has happened is the bike is now responsive in a way I didn't think it would be. I mean, like I said before, out of the box, this is an incredibly capable motorbike. So there, no fuel, nothing, cross 5, back on. And what that means is when I turn, straight away, no hesitation, engine responds, accelerates harder, and that's in combination. So he took the snorkel out of the front airbox, obviously restricting some of the airflow, so that also makes a big difference, not only just to the noise but to the response, because more air plus more fuel equals more power, and more power at different revs. So while we didn't gain massive numbers at the top end, the gains at like 20%, 40%, 60% throttle were massive. Like, in some places he was doubling available power, and you know, you watch this on the screen and he's explaining to you, and you know, you're struggling to keep up because he's just, this is his bread and butter to him, so it all makes sense, and whereas this is all kind of new to me. But the impact of those changes is drastic. Like, I'm gonna have to relearn how to ride this bike, because obviously I've had it for 2 years, almost 3 at this stage actually. It'll be 3 in what, in November, blah blah blah. In 4 or 5 months I'll have had it for 3 years, and I find myself like still going for that like preloading of the throttle to try and take that little snatchiness out of it, or that little gap in between throttle on and power on. Like, that's all gone now. It's just there. It's to the point now where when you're going along, if you want to do it, if you want to make a change to your speed or something, you almost just have to think about it as opposed to actually physically engage. And often for small little changes, thinking about it is enough. It's just, I can't get over how responsive it is now. It's funny, the one thing I was afraid of, and I didn't say this to Gary before I gave him the bike, was that beautiful pop and bang on the overrun that this bike does from stock with the Akrapovic and the Sport model. I was afraid he was going to like tune that out, because that's obviously unburned fuel being injected into the exhaust and igniting. But it's still there. There's definitely like a deeper sound out of the stock can, and remember, like that big ugly catalytic converter is still there. This is a stock system, bar the Akrapovic end can which comes with the Sport model. Like, nothing is different from what you would buy off the showroom floor. The last model or I had before this, 2016, like I stuck an Austin Racing can on that and it made no difference. I put one side by side against a stock S1000R and we started exactly the same, because a big ugly heavy cat is there strangling the sound. But now there is a definite deeper boom out of it. It's lovely, and it's not that it's subtle, but it's not overbearing. It's not like a full open-end system that is actually painful to listen to on longer spins on the motorway. Right, let's go. Let's shut off. This is fourth gear. We're down to the range now. Oh, oh yeah. Oh my god, I loved this bike before, but now... Oh. You're a wizard, Gary! You're a wizard! The hell am I doing on this road? This is what happens when you don't pay attention. You just end up wandering whilst talking to camera. Oh my god, it's so slippy. Dynamic probably isn't the best thing for this, but anyway. That's one important thing to note actually, is that of the four maps on the S1000R, so there's Rain, Road, Dynamic, Dynamic Pro, the changes Gary made only impact the three modes, so of Road, Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. And so what that means is it leaves Rain mode in its normal configuration, throttle position sensor wise, fueling wise, and that's because in Rain mode everything is backed off for safety, and all the ASC and traction control, they're all up to their sensitivity. There is no point in tuning Rain mode for the kind of performance that we're looking for in the rest of them, because you only really stick it in there when you're in miserable conditions. And actually during the week I was riding in some miserable fucking conditions, and yeah, threw it in rain, which is really rare for me, but the bike just completely relaxed. The throttle was back to its, its old self, even a bit more, because of that, the fly-by-wire is further retarded. What was that? Was that an SX? Anyway. So yeah, so the changes made only impact Road, Dynamic and Dynamic Pro. So I'm in Dynamic at the moment because it is still quite wet and slippy. It is freezing cold. So I have ridden in Dynamic Pro, and it is that just a bit more fun. But I think for today and for the review, while I'm talking to camera as well, just to have a little bit of extra safety around me. Another thing that Gary did was he adjusted the engine braking characteristics of the bike. So he essentially turned it off. So now when I shut off, the bike will actually run on. Like the engine brake, it wasn't that severe on the R, but it was still noticeable, so you had to account for it. Whereas now it's not there. Like you shut off and you roll and you just keep going. So that comes into play in two places. So one is on track, so it means you can carry more speed into a corner, shut off later, brake later, and hopefully get out of the corner faster. And the second place is not so much on roads like this, but more on like the motorway stuff where you're traveling at a consistent speed and you see something and you shut off because you hesitate for something, and then you realize, oh, like say a car is about to move out as you're coming up in the outside lane, and you shut off, and next thing the engine braking kicks in, bike slows down, Now that's all gone. So what happens is when you shut off, the bike will run on, and when you realise actually the car is not moving, and you get back on the power, you're just straight back into it because the fueling is there, because the bike isn't slowing down, and it just makes for an overall nicer riding experience. Honestly, I was considering trading this in for something else. Like, not that because I wasn't happy with the bike, it's a great bike, but I was just fancying a change. And the problem was, like, there wasn't anything out there really that was, you know, I saw them, yeah, definitely one of them. And now what's happened is, after the Gary's work, like as I mentioned before, like, I have to relearn how to ride this motorcycle because it's now so responsive. So all thoughts to sell it now are gone. Like, I now have a new challenge, I suppose, in learning how to get the most out of this bike to my level of ability anyway. The changes, not so drastic, it's radically transformed, but it's just made better in so many ways. And stuff I never even considered, like, okay, everyone wants more power and more responsiveness, but things like the engine braking reduction, like, never considered it, never needed it, just, you know, bought the bike, that's the characteristic of the bike, it's nowhere near as bad as the V-twin, for example. Like, a big change in small ways. I am dying to get this out on track to see how it goes compared to last time I had it out in Cartagena. Look, I'll be honest, right? This is probably not for everybody, okay? The stock 1000R out of the box, phenomenal bike, absolutely great bike. This is for people who want to get the most out of their equipment. Like, if you want that little nth degree of performance, then this is for you, okay? Like, the changes that have been made, they're not massively, they're not drastic, but altogether they make such a difference to the bike. Like, the responsiveness, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is the bike that BMW wanted to build when they were making the Euro, but someone came in and said, oh no, you can't make the throttle that responsive at that point because people won't like it. And they're right, like, they're building bikes to appeal to as many people as possible. But if you're the kind of rider who knows what they're about and knows what they're doing, and you want that performance, you want that sensitivity, well then, this is for you. Gary did 64 dyno runs on this bike to build the mapping and get it to the stage where it's at now. And the thing is, like, no one else now has to go through that. Gary has a map from a stock S1000R Euro 4 regs, everything in its place, no performance mods whatsoever. And now he can flash that to any S1000R ECU that he gets. If you want this for your bike, reach out to Gary. I'll put his contact details down below or up on screen. Like, the changes, and what's important to realize here, like, this is the way things are going. Like, the days of tuning jet speeds and balancing carbs and stuff like that, that is well behind us now. Like I mentioned, this is probably the bike BMW wanted to build, but because of the Euro 4 and now Euro 5 compliance, they have to put this big ass ugly catalytic converter on the bikes, and they have to put an exhaust that restricts gas flow to a certain point and has to be so quiet, and all these boxes they have to tick. And the amazing thing is, they still produce bikes like this that are so good out of the box. But it takes people like Gary, and I've been talking to him, there are not a lot of people who can do this. It takes them, people like Gary, sitting down, figuring out, right, how is the ECU locked down? How are they doing this? How are they enforcing these regulations and restrictions? And we get around that, and the result is just such a better bike. Fucking hell. I know I said before that I wasn't sure how much of an impact Gary's work would have on the bike. I hold my hand up here and I was wrong. And it's good that we have people like Gary out there figuring out stuff like this, because like for the money it costs to do the tuning and do the work, I've saved more money by not having to trade this in and possibly buy a more expensive bike. I know it's wet and damp and it's cold out. It's not ideal conditions for biking. Like I can't, push on and make progress as much as I would like to. But riding this bike now with the tune on it, sometimes I forget about it. And when I go to power on and I get a little bit caught out or reminded of the sudden responsiveness, it puts this big smile on my face. And because I'm on a bike every day, mostly for commuting, that kind of sucks a lot of the joy out of motorcycling for me. And it's so nice to be on a bike again and have it make me smile. Well done, Gary. Top job, mate. One of the big things that surprised me with the GS 1250 with the shift cam engine was its pull from like low revs, and this bike still good at getting pulling from low revs, but like it's an only four, it's never meant for that, not like the Boxers. But watch now, so what do we, so say fourth gear. Alright, let's go right down into the depths of the rev range. So let's shut down. 4.5, 3.5, 3, 2.5, practically stopped. Right, let's go. Oh, you just hear the induction. Oh, that's so much better than what it was. Like, in there was no hesitation. That is now gone. It just goes, right, let's dump as much fuel and air in as possible, and let's go as fast as we can, as quick as we can. And it's just, and look at this. Oh my god. It's just ridiculous. Because of lack of like a proper screen, like you would have on a GS or an XO or something, like, you're just so much more exposed to it. It feels so much more visceral. It's brilliant. It's so much fun. Oh. And childish as it sounds, I love the noise. That little induction roar. Let's go back down again. We're just doing this for shits and giggles. Like, watch this, down low. Pull. Let's do a pull. See that, how quickly it just picks up. Oh my god. If you told me this late in the year I'd still be having this much fun on bikes, I wouldn't have believed you. Oh man. Oh, what a piece of kit. What a change. Like, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a single knock, rattle, squeaker noise that has given me any cause for concern since the tune was completed over 2,000 kilometers ago. The bike is still as strong as the day it rolled off of Gary's dyno and continues to put a massive smile on my face every single time I get on it. Even the fueling hasn't been adversely affected. Given my normal tank range is 250 kilometers, the worst I've seen is 240 from the tank. So, in my mind, the trade-off is absolutely worth the benefit. This is something I'd highly recommend for you if you're looking to get the most out of your motorcycle. And the good news is you don't have to bring the bike to Gary. He offers a postal tuning service. All you need to do is remove your ECU from your bike, post it to Gary, he'll flash the map and post it back to you. You reinstall it while removing the snorkel and the airbox at the same time, and that's it. You should then see the exact same performance benefit that I've seen on my bike. Contact details for Gary are in the description and also up on screen now. Don't be afraid to drop him an email and ask him any questions you have. Even if you don't have an S1000R, Gary tunes a wide range of recent fuel injected motorcycles. So drop him a line if you have anything else that you'd like to inquire about getting tuned. Last thing, if you've enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you give it a like and subscribe to the channel. I know I sound like every other moto vlogger out there at the moment, but it really does help the channel grow. The more likes the video gets, the more people see it, the more it gets picked up by the YouTube algorithm. So it really helps the channel. In the meantime, take care, folks. See you on the other side. Peace.